Good morning. Can you hear the music? Hope you can. Yeah, that sounds a bit loud, I think. We need to take that down quite a bit. There we are. And while we're about the festivities, I've got something else here that I can do. What else can I do? Let's have a bit of that. There you are. Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing? Your Christmas countdown starts here. The hat, you say? Yes, part of the collection. Wearing it all weekend. That's not strictly true, but good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing? And Carlos Roberto Diesel. Bom dia. I'm guessing Brazil? Good morning, Carlos Roberto. It's almost a very famous football name, that. Carlos Alberto, I'm thinking. Thank you very much indeed, Ken. Apparently not on Facebook yet. Should be. I'm seeing a tick. I'm apparently broadcasting. Ken Hatcher is here as well. He's feeling in the Christmas spirit. A bit chilly out. I have to say, this hat is nice and warm. Good morning to Jim Turner as well. And Mark Whiting is here as well somewhere. And Dan Cullen, I said the Christmas countdown starts here. And Dan Cullen says it certainly does. Rusty Black has just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you, sir or madam. Not entirely sure. And apparently Facebook has just caught up. There have been changes at Facebook. So beforehand, I used to be able to schedule this, and then just before the show, I'd go in and amend it to tell you exactly what's going to be in the show. Facebook doesn't allow me to do that anymore. So apparently I'm just going to have a standard. You just have to guess what's going to be in the show, or go to YouTube and find out. At least that's for the time being as well. And Facebook is okay. Good. Yeah, it's that time of year. We are counting down to Christmas. A bit of a Christmas theme today. Not just the border around me, not just the hat, but we've also got a Christmas question of the day as well. Already starting to think about all things for 2025, including I have an idea. It's not a new idea, but I have an idea for the monthly moan-in. Yes, not a phone-in, but a moan-in. You remember we were talking about the idea of actually getting all of you guys actually on the show so we can see you all dotted around the screen? Well, I figured that a good way to do that would be to do it on a monthly basis, and I don't know exactly when we're going to do it, but we will do it on a monthly basis, possibly on a Saturday, possibly on a Wednesday evening, possibly both if we've got enough to talk about. We'll fix a date a week or two in advance, and we'll all just get together and have a good old bitch and wine. How about that? Denatech Industrial just joined us as well, and Green Coin Energy as well, and Team Exciting. I don't know what they're getting out of this. Footy says you're not coming on. Facebook says your live isn't working, and yet other people have said it is. Bleed now. Chris Kringle comes to my... I do apologise. I'm just trying to get into the spirit. It was my eldest grandson's birthday this weekend, so we've been kind of in the Christmas spirit, to be perfectly honest. So it's just a bit of a hangover from that. Mick says, Molly, all bloody noisy here. They're outside. They're resurfacing the road outside. We don't tune in dependent on content. We phone just because it's what we do. It's the norm. It has become the norm, hasn't it? I have to admit, and maybe this says more about me than I need to, even when I'm not broadcasting, around about 10 o'clock, I start to get itchy fingers, like, it's time to do a thing, isn't it? So thank you for that, Ken. That's actually reassuring, because the other thing that we do, which, you know, if you're here early, and most of you actually are, we always do like a personalised or a customised start to the show, which also highlights what's coming up in the show. It's a pain in the arse to have to do that, because I basically have to reinvent the whole thing. So I think in 2025 we will actually start with just a regular intro, just to wet your whistle, to whet your appetite a little bit while you're actually coming into the show. So keep an eye out for that. Stefan Edwards has just joined us all the way from the wilds of LinkedIn. Good morning, Stefan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Footy says, I go on your page. It's coming up, nothing else up on your page. Tried rebooting my phone, but nothing's coming up on your page. And yet I am looking at it as we speak. I am looking at my own Facebook feed, and I can see it. Not a problem at all. So I'm guessing the problem may well be at your end, I'm afraid, sir. What I would suggest is, if you really want to take part, head on over to YouTube. Go and have a look. And just to let you know, Footy has also been in touch with the fine folks over at the Lighthouse Club. Have to say, I mean, I've been very critical of the Lighthouse Club in the not too distant past, but they do a very good job in instances like yours. So let's sincerely hope that they can get you sorted out or at least aided a little bit. We'll be coming back to all of that. So it is time for post the intro. Roll the question of the day and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to turn this bloody music off because that's quite enough of that. I'll be back right after this. Yeah, Ken Hatcher reckons that Facebook's okay. As I say, it's working absolutely fine here. Shouldn't be a problem. Jim Turner has also said Facebook's working fine here. And our good friend, Mr. Mick Norton, has just joined us. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And also, thank you for the message you sent me. I think it was yesterday. Made for very interesting reading. In fact, I think that could well be the subject either of a morning monologue or quite possibly one of our first monthly moan-ins. Not a phone-in, but a moan-in. We'll come back to all of that. I'll tell you more. Are you doing a Wednesday night quiz night? I'm not. I did ask and nobody seemed all that keen. And to be perfectly honest, I've got that much to do between now and Christmas. I'm not going to be able to fit it in. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to roll over. And just to let Gary know this as well. Morning, Gary. I'm going to have to roll over the prediction show with the recap of this year's predictions and the predictions for 2025 until the new year. I've just basically run out of year, I'm afraid. Now, Carlos Roberto has just said something to me in Portuguese, which I can't read. So while we're doing something else, I'll get that translated to Carlos and see if I can figure out an answer for you. But good morning to Gary Muirhead, and sorry about the lack of midweek show. But it is Monday, the 16th of December. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Santa Claus of Demolition. For a couple of days. In today's show, Kobelco, where power meets precision. We're celebrating 75 years. Yeah, 75 years of Liebherr. When excavators and attachments speak the same language, and we're off to Bonny, Scotland, home of Messrs. Williamson and Muirhead. Only this time we're doing it in the company of Central Demolition. Plus, in my morning monologue today, technology is rampant in the field of demolition and construction equipment, but just how much is it being adopted? That's the question of the day. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. But before we do all of that, I do need to show you today's mystery machines, which I will do immediately after I've played you. I'm just going to say good morning. Lee Upton, good morning to you, sir. Hope you're fit and well. Whoa, hang on a minute. Hang on just a goddamn moment. Ken Hatcher is saying, look at your photos. There is a news flash. We've signed an official deal with JCB for the supply of green steel from Port Talbot. This is the first supply agreement we've made since announcing our £1.25 billion joint investment with the government to transition to high-quality, low CO2 steel production in South Wales. Who is that from? Who is that actually from, Ken? I can't actually see who was put out the newsflash. Sorry, I could hear something in the background, but I can't work out what it is. Yeah, let me know who that one is from. Mick just said, just put water for me and the hound. Would have been cheaper to take the kids, my kids instead of him. Yeah, you're taking the dog with you. You should have left him with me. I'm sure my dogs would love him. Yeah, so we've got all of that. Mystery Machine. Have we done Mystery Machine? I can't remember. I'm going to do it anyway, just to be absolutely sure. Here is the mystery machine. To clarify that announcement about the fossil fraud, what was it? I just want to make sure I'm going to get my facts straight. Where did it go? Yeah, green steel from Port Talbot is from Tata Steel. Good news. Good news for the steel works in, or the steel industry down in Wales. So, yeah, good news. And well done to JCB for keeping things British-ish, if you take my meaning. Mystery Machine looks a bit like this. Now, I will tell you, this is not a current machine. Given all the love that was expressed for all things vintage last week, I've decided to go a little bit old school. So that is the first glimpse that you have of the new machine. Does the border interfere with that too much? Let me take it away. There you are. I'm going to put it back because it is Christmas. Well, I'll tell you what, let me go for that instead. There you are. We've got a bit of snow on the roof, a bit like my head in some ways. Yes, that's the mystery machine. If you've got anything you would like to add to that, we need a make and a model, if you would be so kind. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to take that away as well because I'm going to replace it with that. There we are. Yes. While you're figuring that out, now, have I actually posted the question today? That's a good question. There you are. There is the question of the day. And right now, I'm going to remind you of something that I hadn't told you before. So here is the question of the day reminder. Yeah, as I've already said, the festivities start here. Over the next 5 days in the run-up to the Christmas break, I have 5, not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1, but 5 Christmas-themed questions of the day, starting today. And today's question is quite simply this. What is your favourite Christmas movie? Favourite Christmas movie? And I can tell you, yes, Die Hard does count as a Christmas movie. I'm not recommending that, because there are better Christmas movies out there. But what is your favourite Christmas movie? Now, personally, as it stands today, I don't actually think Christmas is complete these days without rewatching Love Actually. But surely, I think all good humans can agree that It's a Wonderful Life is the greatest Christmas movie of all time. But if not, let me know. Let me have your choices, if you'd be so kind. There is our mystery machine. We've got a couple of people going straight for... what are they going straight for? Blimey, that's moving too quickly. Gary Muirhead reckons it could be a Cat 219. It is not a Cat 219. Jim Turner reckons a Cat 215. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Maruka MST 800 VD. It is not one of those. And Dan is also going for an Hitachi EG20. Gary Muirhead is going for our question of the day. Greatest Christmas movie, Home Alone. Kevin! Yes, well said. Can I just say, you know the bit in Home Alone where Kevin McAllister, I think his name is, young, what's his bloody name? Macaulay Culkin, puts a tarantula on, I think the actor's name is Daniel Stern, puts a tarantula. The scream that Daniel Stern does is quite easily one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Jim Turner is also going for It's a Wonderful Life, then Elf, then National Lampoons, and then Home Alone. Do you know, I've never actually seen Elf. And I've never seen Elf because I have a personal issue with Will Ferrell. I think he's about as funny as a kick in the goolies. Never seen Elf, and I'm probably bad for it. Mick says, question today, Scrooge, always throwing it off near the end. Can't stand the change in the bloke. Yes, I hate it when evil people become good, don't you? I'll go back to the mystery machine. Dan Cullen is going for a Yanmar C50R-3. Chris Ford is going for a Cat 345D. It's none of those things. Let's show you a bit more. I will tell you, several of you are with the right manufacturer, but you haven't actually got the right one. The other Christmas movie I always think is well worth reviewing is Scrooged. Scrooge with a D on the end with Bill Murray. Dan Cullen. Exactly. Will Ferrell is a Wally. Yeah, I don't get it. Don't get it. I have exactly the same thing with Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller, I don't find him funny at all. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure they've got millions in the bank that suggest that it is probably me that's wrong. But yeah, Gary Muirhead reckons our Mystery Machine could be a Cat 311B. It is not one of those. You're not far off. Jim Turner says a Cat 225. Probably closer still. Not right, but closer still. So keep the guesses coming in. I'm going to take that away because it is 17 minutes in. Oh, just very quickly. Chris Wood goes for Home Alone. It is a corker of a movie. Just a shame they let the side down with Home Alone 2, in which Donald Trump makes an appearance. Like a bad penny. Game over, game over, game over. Mystery Machine has been solved. There it is. And Mark Whiting says, it's wrong button. Mark Whiting says it's a Cat 245B. And he's right, it is a Cat 245B. There you are. There is what a Cat 245B looks like. So, that's an MW, 3 points. Makes no difference. I've already won this month. But there you are. But congratulations, Mr. Whiting. Top job. Mick Norton says, the Santa Claus, where Santa inadvertently falls off the roof and dies. There's a nice cheery beginning to a Christmas movie. But it is very good. It is very good. Isn't that Tim Allen? Tim Allen, the voice of Buzz Lightyear, was just going to say that, says Dan Cullen, as he says every time he doesn't win. And Gary Muirhead says, well done, Mark Whiting. Yes, well done indeed. Should we start? I think we probably should, because we are like 20 minutes in. Back right after this with the first film of today, which features Kobelco. Yeah, the title of this film, I think, is something like when, where is it? I'm just looking for it now. Where power meets precision. And where better to show precision than in Switzerland, home of the cuckoo clock and stuff like that. So we're off to Zurich with Kobelco. Just talk amongst yourselves. I'm still trying to work out what our friend over in probably Brazil was saying to me. Bear with 1 second. I want English, which looks like this is no way to run a show, is it? With me doing something while you can't see it. Apparently our friend over in Brazil has got a 994F for sale. Thank you for letting us know. Like a funky Jethro Tull. Just so you know, Jim, I know you can't tell from where you're sat. I was actually doing that, stood on one leg. playing the flute along. I was indeed. Let's have a look. Like the colour, it's different and great tune. Yeah, it was a bit kind of jazzy, a little bit funky Jethro Tull, as our friend says. Big Jet TV is on Christmas Day. Listen, I love doing what I do, but the thought of going live on Christmas Day, my wife would have me stuffed like the turkey. Not going to happen. Dan Cullen reckons Bad Santa is a very good Christmas movie. I'm not sure I've seen that one either. And Mick says the daughter came up and put lights in the tree up, cheer me up, had to put the tree on the window ledge because the hound kept eyeing it up for a quicken. Yeah. Well, one of the things that was outlawed early doors when we got our 2 boxer dogs, remember the chocolate baubles you used to hang on the tree? Yeah, they were really rather too keen on those. They had to go. But yeah, they never knowingly cock their legs, as far as I know, but only a matter of time, I'm sure. Either them or me, possibly. We're going to be back with a bit of whacker in a minute, right after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, getting your... we've done the mystery machine, don't have to worry about that anymore. Getting your machines and your attachments to speak the same language, quite the trick, but the fine folks at Wacker Neuson have got you covered. So, I love these sort of things. Apparently, Dan Cullen reckons that over on Facebook, the automatic subtitles just translated that, rather than Wacker Neuson, Whack Lewis. I need to work on my enunciation, I think. Gary Muirhead. Gary, this is a sore point. Not because I haven't been sent stuff, because I've been sent a few bits and pieces. But I had an email come through, must be 2 weeks ago now, from Bobcat to say that there was a bunch of Bobcat stuff on their way to us. We then had a phone call to say that it was held up at customs. I think we got it through customs. I had to make some phone calls and clarify a few things. It was due here on Friday last week, didn't arrive, and still hasn't. Gary says, got a very nice Christmas card from Joe Westman and the fine folks at Steel Risk. Good news. Good to see them looking after people. That is one dog's bollocks of a duck. Tidy, says Dan Cullen. And apparently the post office has been sold off for $5.3 billion. Wonder if I'll get my heating payment back on. No, I wouldn't have thought so. I would imagine that will be for different budgets. It's not just one big central budget unless the government decided is. I'm going to say good morning to Ultimate Plant Trailers. Ultimate Plant Trailers watching over on Instagram. Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a good film coming up for you in just a moment. It is 6 minutes long, but on the basis that it's the history of Liebherr, I think you'll think it's worthwhile. I'll be right back after this. Yeah, apparently, according to Dan, the post office is no longer British. It is now Polish. I'll leave you to make your own comments on that. Listen, I don't make any secret of the fact that I think Liebherr are bloody marvellous. And they've been being bloody marvellous for 75 years, as you're about to find out.
Many elements are required to create something great. The courage to take unknown paths, passion, cohesion, and determination. But it all starts with a good opportunity and someone who recognizes it. After the Second World War, inventiveness is key. In 1949, the first mobile tower crane, TK-10, contributes to the reconstruction of Germany and becomes the cornerstone of the Liebherr Group. Crane production starts in Kirchdorf an der Iller and is later gradually relocated to Biberach. Without gear wheels, there would be no crane gearboxes, and gear wheels were rare. This led to the creation of a new business area at Liebherr with the development of a gear hobbing machine in 1952. Only 1 in 10 German households owns a refrigerator. In 1954, Hans Liebherr built the first production plant for domestic appliances in Ochsenhausen. In the same year, one of the first hydraulic excavators in Europe goes into series production. The L300 moves just as much material as the machines used at the time, but it is 4 times lighter. In 1955, the construction machinery program grows to include concrete mixers. Liebherr expands. In 1958, the first production facilities outside Germany are established in Killarney, Ireland, and Springs, South Africa. The first ship crane is developed in 1958. Liebherr sets sail. The next year sees the premiere of the forefather of Liebherr mobile cranes, the AK-40. 10 years later, the plant in Ehingen is built. Aerospace has potential. Hans Liebherr recognizes this and founds the Lindenberg plant in 1960. The Europe in Killarney opens its doors in 1961. Liebherr steps into the world of the hotel industry. The production of crawler excavators starts in Colmar in the same year. Another milestone follows in 1974. Liebherr enters the extreme challenges of the mining industry. Involvement in deep foundation machines begins in 1979. Liebherr follows the motto of mastering key technologies itself. Components have been manufactured in-house since the 1950s. Internal combustion engines go into series production in 1984. Since 1997, heating and air conditioning technologies for railway vehicles have been developed. A plant for mobile harbor, ship, and offshore cranes opens in Rostock in 2005. Today, Liebherr is a family-run technology company with 13 product segments and over 50,000 employees. Liebherr sees itself as a pioneer and thinks ahead. Its employees are already tackling challenges today that customers will face tomorrow, always with the firm goal of convincing with sophisticated customer-oriented solutions. In this way, Liebherr is helping to shape the history of technology.
They certainly achieved a lot in 75 years, haven't they? Need to clarify. Apparently, the post office has been sold, but not to a Polish company. It has been sold to a Czech billionaire whose name I can't even begin to pronounce. But the Royal Mail is no longer royal. It is now Czech-owned. Does that mean that our friend Mick will get his heating payment back on? Jim Turner says, not unless you've got to live in Syria, Mick, or become a Brazilian farmer, or sneak back in from Malta in a dinghy. Wouldn't recommend any of those, to be perfectly honest with you, but you have a point. And Mick says, could be an idea, Jim. Might get a new place to live and a free phone as well. Quite possibly even a car thrown into the mix if you really play your cards right. But I wouldn't bank on any of that. We've got one more film to play you, which is just a minute long, bit of demolition all the way from Bonny, Scotland, which will be along in just a moment.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
And our man, Modular Jim Turner, thoroughly enjoying the video from Liebherr just a moment ago. Now, we're off to Scotland, as I already said, with Central Demolition, and then it's into my morning monologue. So let's get Central Demolition all keyed up, and then we'll get into talking about technology. Yeah, Dan Cullen asking a very good question. Is that job near you, Gary? Is it? I think it probably is, fairly close. Mick says, got a feeling Prince Andrew could be a good candidate as the newest lodger at the Tower of London if he isn't careful. He'll be okay. He is manufactured entirely from sweat-resistant Teflon. Nothing sticks. Gary Muirhead says, I think a wee trip to Scotland's demo sites is well overdue, Mark. Gary, I am going to tell you this, and I was going to do this in another way, but I want to tell you this right now. You and I will meet in 2025 if it is the last thing I do. You have everybody, you heard it here first. Gary, I'm coming your way, but regardless of whether you want me or not, I'm coming your way. There is no way I'm doing another year without us actually meeting face to face. And Dan Cullen saying, that looks a well-organised site. Totally agreed. Now, I do need to take that off the screen, and I'm going to change hats in just a moment because it is that time. That's about it for the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then please do stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, and I hope to see you again very, very soon as we count down to Christmas. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I shall return in just a moment, with more of this. Yeah, I figured it was hard to do a serious morning monologue with a silly hat on. Dan Cullen says, I'm up for it. I'll join you, Mark, on the overnight train. I've always wanted to do that. Never done an overnight train. And not far down. Apparently, that site was fairly close to our man, Mr. Muirhead. So it is morning monologue time. Largely nothing to do with Christmas, although the timing of it is, as you'll see. We find ourselves in that period of the year when new product launches are few and far between. The demolition and construction equipment that could be introduced in 2024 has already made its debut. Now, the industry waits with bated breath for the Bauma exhibition in April 2025, where the major manufacturers will unveil their latest innovations. There will unquestionably be new machines. But if the trends from the last Bauma, from ConExpo in 2022, and from Intermat earlier this year are any indication, the key developments will likely revolve around software, systems, and a host of technological gadgets. These enhancements, while exciting, are less about the physical machines and more about the digital ecosystems that surround them. Now, as a professional industry observer, I find all that thrilling. The technology side of the business is in a constant state of flux, with rapid advancements reshaping how we think about productivity, safety, accuracy, and efficiency. If this pace of change continues, there'll be no shortage of topics for me to write about and to broadcast over the coming months and years. But even as I marvel at these advancements, I can't help but question their real-world impact. Will this impressive array of technology, as groundbreaking as it appears, make a true industry-defining difference? Will it significantly alter the demolition and construction landscape, particularly here in the UK? Now, the crux of the issue and the crux of my question lies in adoption, or rather those doing the adopting. The UK construction equipment market is dominated by plant hire and rental companies. And while these firms have achieved remarkable feats in making equipment widely accessible, they often operate with a buy 'em cheap and stack 'em high mentality. Their primary concern is not cutting-edge technology, but maintaining competitive hire rates. For the most part, they're not particularly interested in features that don't directly increase their bottom line. This reluctance creates a bottleneck for technology adoption. Even the most significant safety innovations, such as 360-degree camera systems and human form recognition software, are unlikely to see widespread uptake unless they can demonstrably move the financial needle. Driver aids that enhance productivity might be game changers in theory, but they're unlikely to generate queues at the equipment dealerships. Similarly, despite the undeniable advantages of telematics in fleet management, the majority of machines are still sold without these systems installed. This leaves the industry media in an interesting position. When Bauma rolls around, there'll be no shortage of coverage dedicated to these technological marvels. Writers, broadcasters, and journalists will rush back from Munich, extolling the virtues of the latest driver aids, GPS systems, telematics, and safety innovations. For a few weeks, these advancements will dominate the headlines on platforms like Demolition News and, well, lesser industry outlets. Yet for all the excitement these launches generate, their impact will likely remain largely muted. The reality is that much of this technology will remain a sideshow, a fascinating but ultimately niche pursuit. For the majority of the industry, the response will be a collective shrug. Progress will march on, but adoption will lag behind. So what will it take to shift the needle? What will be the moment when the broader industry finally embraces the technological opportunities already available to them? In the realm of electrification and eventually hydrogenation, the tipping point will likely come through a combination of legislation, regulation, and the expansion of low and ultra-low emission zones. Governments and municipalities are already increasingly prioritising sustainability, and regulatory frameworks will push the industry towards cleaner and greener solutions. For other technologies, the shift will be less about a push from the manufacturers and more about a pull from end users. Major contractors seeking greater productivity and accuracy will lead the charge, demanding smarter and more capable equipment. Subcontractors, eager for better returns on their investments, will follow suit, and individual operators who spend countless hours in their machines will advocate for features that enhance their working environment and their capabilities. But until that tipping point arrives, exhibitions like Bauma, ConExpo, and Intermat will continue to resemble the classic BBC TV show Tomorrow's World. These events showcase technological leaps and boundless potential, but much of what's displayed will remain out of reach for the average operator or company. It's an exciting vision of the future, but one that many in the industry may never fully encounter in their day-to-day operations. Yet, despite these challenges, there is a reason to be optimistic. Change may be slow, but it's inevitable. This industry has a history of adopting technologies that once seemed out of reach. Look no further than GPS systems, which have gone from a novelty to a standard feature in many machines. Similarly, telematics, while still underutilized, is gradually gaining traction as fleet operators recognize its potential to improve efficiency and reduce downtime. Unquestionably, the demand for smarter, safer, and more sustainable construction practices is growing. Clients and end users are increasingly prioritizing these factors, creating a ripple effect that will eventually influence every corner of the industry. As those priorities align with technological advancements, adoption rates will rise and the benefits of these innovations will become more widespread. As we look ahead to Bauma 2025 and beyond, it's clear that the future of demolition and construction is one of immense potential. The technologies on the horizon have the power to transform how we work, making our industry safer, more efficient, and more sustainable. But realizing that potential will require a concerted effort, not just from the manufacturers, but from contractors, operators, and from industry leaders. The path to widespread adoption will not be without its hurdles. But if the past has taught us anything, it's that this industry is well capable of incredible adaptation and resilience. The innovations we see today may not change the landscape overnight, but they are the building blocks of a smarter, more connected future. In the meantime, some of us in the media will continue to highlight these advancements, championing the possibilities they present. And while the wider industry's response may be measured, we'll keep shining a light on the path forward, confident that the tipping point is not a question of if, but when. So, Gary Muirhead says, when you do come to Scotland, I'll treat you and Dan to my favourite Italian restaurant. Listen, that sounds like an absolute treat, Gary, and I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. But I wouldn't mind going for a bit of Scottish while I'm there. If you know someone that does a good line in haggis, count me in. Jim Turner says legislation. Yeah, I do think that demolition, that legislation will be the key indicator. Galvin over at Moster Diggers. If every company and contractor was paid their full invoices on a timely manner, then they have to be very vigilant on their expenditure on gear and tech. Yeah. I screwed that sentence up, he says, but I think you know what I'm saying. Yeah, maybe if there was a bit more money sloshing around, in other words, if people were paid on time, then maybe people would actually go and spend a bit more. One of the things that I do find interesting, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, is that pull that is coming from owner-operators. The guys that are spending 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day behind the levers of their machines, I do believe they are really pushing the envelope. It is them with the fancy lighting packages. It's them with the GPS and the tilt rotators and the quick couplers. And when you see a fully decked out machine, chances are it's either for a specialist application or the bloke sat in it is actually an owner operator. Jim Turner, going back to his word legislation, that will bring the change. Or productivity. Profit has always led to advancements. That's why machines got bigger and workforce got less. It's an interesting point, that, because the point that I made about plant hirers, I've not seen the figures for quite some time. I know at one point the UK market was about 90% of all construction equipment sold went into plant hire and rental companies. The problem with that, and and let's be absolutely clear, the likes of Flannery and Lynch and Sunbelt, I think they do some fantastic things. But are they actually interested in productivity? Simple set of maths. If you can achieve more, you'll need your machine for less time, will you not? And if you need your machine for less time, that's less money going into the coffers of the rental companies. So where is their requirement? Where is their reason to be more productive? And all the time that's the problem. That's a problem. And I do think that's why we've had pockets. We've had pockets of development. We've got certain people have gone the GPS route. We've got certain people that have gone the quick coupler, tilt rotator route. We've got some people that have gone telematics route. Let's be absolutely honest here. The people that would benefit the most, by a long, long way from telematics, would be the plant hirers, because it does allow them to track an entire fleet, where they are, what they're doing, whether they've moved out of hours, potentially being stolen, are they being maintained properly and everything else. You've got all those capabilities. The take-up is still to come. There's an awful lot to be done there. Mick says, the smell of diesel fumes and grubbed-up tarmac, nothing like it this time of day. I came out of the East India Club in St. James last week. It was Monday last week. Came out and they were redoing the road there. There is no smell quite like that, is there? I totally agree with you. Mick Norton says, there are examples, for example, lateral instability of telescopic handlers, where safety-critical technology does not get included in the production line because it is prohibitively expensive and commercially disadvantageous to the manufacturer. Yeah. One of the things that drove that monologue was the fact that when you think about a lot of the technology that I've mentioned there, telematics, quick couplers, tilt rotators, fancy lighting packages, electrification, all of that is available, but all of it, 360-degree cameras, human form recognition technology, all of it from every manufacturer is offered as an option. Surely in a mature industry, we should be at the point where all of those things are standard. Yes, the machine will be more expensive, but if you are truly interested in making your equipment more productive and ultimately safer, then surely those should be standard features. Stefan over in the Netherlands says, here in the Netherlands, many machine developments are driven by legislation. Even in tenders, if you use modern zero-emission machines, the chance of getting a contract are higher. In this way, it pays to deploy more expensive but more advanced machines. I was in, as you well know, Stefan, I was over in the Netherlands a week or two ago. And yeah, I came back so struck with that. While we're over here in the UK, we are still sitting on the fence deciding whether electrification and lower emissions machines are the way forward. The Dutch have just gone, well, I'm sorry, but that's the way we're going to do it. That's the right and proper way. Good morning, Tristan Mays. Good morning, young man. Young man, a while since I've been called one of those. Dan Cullen says they're only interested in hiring most of their machines. They're only interested in hiring. Most of their machines are bog standard, few with GPS, but only by customer demands. And what is the tipping point there? I don't know if anybody here actually works in the plant hire sector, but just how many phone calls do you need to receive asking for the GPS or LED lighting or reversing cameras or 360-degree cameras or human form recognition or whatever it might be? How many phone calls do you need to receive requesting that before you go, we kind of need to do this now? And I wonder, this is actually me asking a question. I'm not making a statement. I'm actually asking the question. If you're a company like let's think about Sunbelt as an example. You know, you've got all these depots up and down the country. If your depot in Plymouth receives a phone call that says we're only looking for machines that are fitted with GPS, is that logged? And if you get another phone call to your depot in Gretna Green, is that logged? And do those two come together so that somebody sitting, overarching is looking at it and going, we seem to be, up and down the country, we seem to be getting these calls. We should probably look at that. Is that happening? And as I say, I'm asking the question. Mick Norton says, how are the Dutch faring on the resale of their electric equipment? Yeah, good question. Stefan, how are you seeing, if you're seeing at all? I mean, it's still early doors when you think that the life expectancy of most machines is, 4 or 5 years before you're likely to be selling it on? Are you seeing used equipment, used electric equipment going off over the Weybridge auctions or being privately sold? Love to get your thoughts on that. Plant hire companies only hire in the extra equipment required. Yeah, one of the things that strikes me about this is I wonder how much that conservatism is holding them back. I'm constantly frustrated by the fact that no major plant hirer has made a significant leap into all things electric. As I said last week, there will be a learning curve with electrification and hydrogenation and so on down the line. Surely, if you started that learning curve today, it will be less steep than when it finally happens. So, if Sadiq Khan or Andy Byrne up in Manchester suddenly declared that London or Manchester was now an emission-free zone, you'd all have, plant hirers would have to race and learn and teach themselves and put operators in place and put infrastructure in place and teach a whole new generation of fitters how to keep those machines running and all of those kind of things. Yet if you had started now, even if you started in a fairly low-level way, you'd have ironed out those bugs by the time that Sadiq Khan or Andy Burnham says, stop electric going forward. Stephen Edwards says, I haven't seen second-hand electrical equipment on the second-hand market yet, but in due time, 2 to 3 years, we'll know more. Yeah, that was kind of my guess, to be honest. Mick says, watching Starmer on the news at a press conference in Norway, the man is one total prick. He's standing there like a bottle of wine no one wants to drink. I've never heard that expression before, but I do appreciate it. I think that's an absolute belter. Footy says he's talked to the Lighthouse Club, said willing to send me a food bank out, and they'll go from there. That's a step forward, Footy. It's a step forward. That's good news. Keep up the good work, sir. Dan Cullen says UK hasn't a clue. Was reading an article on a 30-mile rail track up near Newcastle. Cost 130 million, and 2 out of 4 stations on that line are not complete. Yeah. It's becoming harder and harder to tolerate. Who was it? It was Steve Williamson who went off to Morocco earlier this year, had a holiday with his good lady over in Morocco, and came back saying about how cheap everything was, how good the roads were, about the lack of potholes, about the lack of traffic jams, and all of those kind of things. I do feel, and I'm trying not to overstate this, but I do feel in many instances, the UK, I wouldn't go so far as to say we are now a third world country, but I do think we're probably a second world at this point. In many of our, in many forms of infrastructure, our railway lines are overly expensive and very, very poor. Our roads are terrible. We are going backwards. And unfortunately, while I was glad to see the back of the Tory party, I don't get the impression that Mr. Starmer is likely to make much of a change. Jim Turner says the demand dictates the market. If no one needs it, then why buy it and try to hire it out? As a differentiator, as a differentiator. And we've had Steve Williamson on this show talking about, his adoption of all things technological, and he is literally chomping at the bit. The moment somebody offers him an electric machine, he's jumping on an electric machine. But he's using GPS, he's using tilt rotators and all those kind of things. And as a result, he is earning more money for it. There will be applications out there. We did a visit with a company down in Wales, must be the best part of 2 years ago, and they'd switched over to Leica systems for a variety of things, and they had gone from their maximum, their biggest ever contract was £1 million, and they'd gone from 1 million to 10 million, not turnover, but £10 million projects because of the adoption, because they could show main contractors and clients their capabilities. We can map this and map that, monitor this and monitor that, deliver this degree of accuracy. That was enough to make them up the league. Surely there must be plant hirers looking at this and going, that could be, particularly when you think about plant hire is always guilty of racing to the bottom. I was talking about this online back end of last week. The price of machines does that. It's forever going up. The price of insurance, forever going up. The price of fuel, forever going up. The price of wages, by and large, forever going up. The one thing that doesn't do that is hire rates. Hire rates go up when times are good, and they go back down again when times are bad. And then you have to build them up, and they go back down. So as a result, the higher rates that you're getting for backhoe loaders, mini excavators, of that kind of thing, the rates that you're seeing today are not wholly different to the rates you were getting 10, 15, 20 years ago. And yet, as I say, the cost of machines, fuel, insurance, wages have all increased exponentially during that time. Surely, if you're looking for something that will allow you to avoid that up and down, that constant peak and trough, highs and lows curve that the plant hire goes through, surely you'd be thinking, well, okay, what can I do that my other local competitors can't do or aren't doing? And surely technology is a pretty fast win with that. Gary Muirhead says, we have a plant hire, a Blackwood plant hire here in Scotland, who fits our safety shield to every new machine they order. Even the forklift in the yard has had it fitted. Well, fair play to them. Blackwood plant, I tip my hat to you. Mick Norton says, the Isambard Kingdom Brunels of this world put the great in Britain. Today's clowns are destroying the country's ability to punch above its weight. Yeah, it does feel an awful lot like that. Mick says, anyone worked out the price for a second-hand electric machine will be worth after 3 years? I'm not the most optimistic person, as anyone that watches this show will undoubtedly testify. But my personal feeling on that is I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. No moving parts, and from everything that I'm hearing, that battery will have a second life. And it will either have a second life in frontline construction, in other words, that battery will go on ultimately to outlive the machine upon which it is mounted, or it can be taken out and used as energy storage, site power, or whatever it might be. I hope that we'll be pleasantly surprised on that. Dan Carr says, biggest cost was safety and engineering. Funniest part, it was on an existing line to update. Brilliant. No, I think that's about it. It's weird. Sometimes, I mean, I know you can't see it. I've got a column of comments that come there, and it basically, when a new comment comes in, it jumps up. And every once in a while, it jumps up, and there's nothing there. I don't know what causes that. So yes, that's the end of the show. Only 4 more days to go, or 4 more shows to go until we call it a day for the year. I'll be back tomorrow. I had a weirdly productive weekend this weekend. I've already written 3 of the morning monologues for the week. That was the first of them. I've got a couple more coming. I've got one that I'm planning to save until Friday, just to send you into Christmas in a really bad mood. It is going to be a bit more serious than my usual fare, but it needs to be said, and somebody's got to say it. And given the fact that the trade press in this industry doesn't do that anymore, apparently they have lost the ability to tell it tell the truth. They'd much rather safeguard their advertising and tell lies. Then it leaves it down to me. So I shall be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for more of the same. And I can promise you we will have some vintage machines for you tomorrow. Humbug, says Footy. Humbug about Christmas. Chris Ford says, if I could hire a machine today at the rate I was getting paid when I started, I'd be a happy boy. £5 an hour, including fuel and driver for a JCB 3C in 1982. Yeah. Why is that? There are certain things. I must have mentioned this before. I have a theory about it. When I was at high school about 1,000 years ago, there was a particular make and model of bicycle that I wanted, and it would have cost my parents 110 quid, which, at the time was a lot of money. Well, 110 quid. I wouldn't mind finding that on the street today. But 110 quid. You can still, to this day, buy a bicycle for 110 quid. It's like bicycles have become exempt from inflation. Higher rates to a large degree are exactly the same. And as I say, I do think it's this, we'll put them up, we'll put them up, we'll put them up, we'll put them down. Things have gone wrong. The first and only thing we can do as a plant hire company is literally chop the legs off the higher rate and away it goes. Bizarre. No Jim Turner tomorrow. Everybody, Jim, wish you well for your funeral. But if anyone wants to talk about Jim behind his back, tomorrow will be the day to do it. Although he can watch it on catch up, and he's a lot bigger than me, so maybe don't do that. Mick says, reason I ask, I was talking to a fellow who was involved in this. There are concerns regarding motors and batteries and their lifespan. As I said, Mick, everything, and I've got this from battery manufacturers, but I've also got this from the OEMs, including Liebherr, Volvo, Komatsu, JCB, and as I say, battery manufacturers as well. And all of them are telling me that those batteries are going nowhere. They will basically outlast the machine in one form or another. And bearing in mind, a lot of these machines are running on dry systems, so you've got no hydraulics to worry about and all that kind of thing. Yeah, we shall see. Chris Ford says, I have the feeling second-hand electric diggers will be worth as much as a second-hand electric car. Bit like a cold nobody wants one. We shall see. We shall see. It can't be long. It can't be long. I mean, we've had electric machines for a good 8-9 years now. I would have thought you would think, and I don't think it's fair to judge by the sale of those initial first generation machines, because first generation electric machines were about as good as first generation iPhones. They've come a long way since then. I think give it another couple of years, as I think it was Stephen Edwards said, give it another 2 to 3 years when we actually start to see them being sold en masse. I'm hopeful that we will start to see the benefit. And Dan Cullen says, no Chris today. Yes, Chris has been here all along. There he is, in fact. Mick says, okay, I'm off. Stay safe, fellas. Catch you later. Mick, look after yourself, my friend. Go enjoy your Christmas tree. Keep the hound away from it. I'll be back tomorrow as well, 10 a.m. for more of the same. Till then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. And the countdown is underway. You can hear the jingle bells as we speak. See you tomorrow. All the best.